Hello and welcome to the Limitless Outdoors podcast. And today we're actually going to be kicking off a 4-part series exploring how do I plan and execute a moose hunt in Alaska. This is a question that we get a ton, and we want to walk through it just kind of from beginning to end, starting with the planning phase. We're going to be looking at gear and logistics, the actual hunt, sizing up moose, everything, and then bringing them back. And so we want to thoroughly look at this so that it can be a resource for you to maybe plan a trip of a lifetime up there. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm joined by Joshua and Colton, and we are going to be kicking this off today and having Josh kind of ask some questions like somebody who would be interested in planning a hunt for the first time. And hopefully we can speak into that and you can glean a lot from it. So Josh, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, in what I do, in what I do with Limitless Outdoors, I field a whole bunch of questions online. Myself and Colton are typically the people that are bouncing all those things, but we get a lot of questions in regards to the Alaska hunts, and hopefully, we can start kind of walking people through it, and they'll be able to, have a really good picture for the future. So the first thing that we get is they say, like, how do I get started? A lot of people, they think that when they have to do an Alaska hunt, they essentially think, oh, I need a $10,000, $15,000 budget, and they don't know where to begin. So maybe you can start by saying, just giving, like, how should they get started into that first of all?
That's a great question. So I started hunting moose in Alaska in 2010, and I was 23 at the time. And back then, the internet didn't even hardly exist, right? Like, there was so little information, and there's still very little information on moose hunting in Alaska. Very difficult to understand. And so how we started was we got a tip from somebody that had hunted there. I mean, that's how the whole thing, we just kind of pull on that thread and the whole thing kind of unraveled, right? And so that's how we got started, but it's taken a long time to cut our teeth. But where I would start right now, having the experience I do, if I was going to get started on figuring out a moose hunt, the first thing I would do is I would start calling air taxi guys. That is the pinch point. When I say air taxi, I'm talking about the guys that are on float planes or Super Cubs that can fly you in, because the number one thing that's going to stop you from getting up there is not going to be your finances or anything else. It's going to be getting a seat on an airplane to get flown out.
Oh, wow. So would you say that you would do that before even worrying about tags or anything?
Yeah, and so they're booked so far out, it's insane. A lot of these guys are booked 2-3 seasons out.
And some of them you can't even get in on anymore, hardly. So like guys like 40 Mile Air out of Tok, they have a process for how you can get on board with them.
You just name dropped right now. That guy's going to get completely blasted.
Yeah, then nobody will get in with him either, probably. Yeah. Very few people get in with them. They've got a great reputation. But so where I would start, and this answers, what people don't realize is this answers almost all of your questions. So here's what the air taxi guys are. So these guys are the ones, and there's very few of them around the state of Alaska overall, and these guys are the guys that are constantly in the air. They're seeing what's on the ground. They know where the moose are. They know where are great spots to drop you. They know where other people are consistently hunting, and places that you can't get into because guides are there, and there's a lot of ethics and etiquette that goes into hunting up there. And so my first call Alaska is huge, and there are moose all over Alaska. There's places where there's more moose and there's places where there's less moose, but an air taxi guy is going to direct you in the right direction. And so literally just Googling Fairbanks, who's the air taxi there? I know there's Right Air.
So would you say that that's something that everybody's doing, though? That's not like cheating or anything, asking?
Oh, no, it's not cheating at all.
Yeah, because I'll field YouTube comments where they go, oh, yeah, but somebody was flying overhead, and, what are you doing with the moose?
I mean, so here's the thing with moose. When you're flying, because these guys are all flying low level, right? Like 300 to 500 feet above ground. And so
if you're looking out the window, you're going to see them.
You're going to see the moose. And it's just one of those things. You just kind of make a mental note of it. Yeah. And legitimately, people ask me all the time, like, where do I go? Where do I go? It's like, honestly, there are moose everywhere. And moose are wandering in the rut. Yeah. There's places that are better. And your air taxi guy is going to know that. And that's why I say, so if I'm going to get started on a hunt, the first thing I want to do is talk to an air taxi guy. Because if I get so many guys like in July, like, hey, I want to go on a moose hunt this September.
Can't do it, buddy.
Almost probably not going to get in
Gotcha.
With a guy. But that guy's going to answer a lot of your questions. One of the big things is going to be budgeting, because flying in Alaska is not like down here. Like you fly into the Frank Church in the Salmon, and that's like a $350, $400 flight in a 206. But up there, these guys are charging $1,000 to $1,500 an hour, depending.
An hour.
206 is going to be $1,000 an hour.
Wow.
A Beaver or something like that, you're going to be $1,500 and up an hour. And so, how far you go out? Like these are all the questions that are going to really shape primarily your budget. That's your big chunk of your budget. And so finding an air taxi guy, that would be my number one thing. What do you think, Colton?
Yeah, when you're going up there, a good rule that Mark has is that he will not drop anybody on top of each other. Like he refuses to do that. So like when you're planning out a spot, he has spots that are just like, no, those are, like Justin said, they're off the table. You have outfitters, you have other clients that have been repeat customers. They're just going to lay everything out for you.
Do you find the air taxi guys, they communicate with one another so that they're not dropping on each other's clients?
And that's the thing is Alaska is a small place. It's so vast. It's so vast.
It's huge, but
it's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So, there's this idea that it's all public land and I can hunt wherever I want to on public land. There's also a reality though of the etiquette, and the air taxi guys, they control where everybody goes, and they will not drop you on top of other guys.
Okay.
And so early on in our hunting, I killed a moose and then packed it to a lake that other guys were on, and I caused just all sorts of problems for everybody. Wow. Yeah. And so it's just one of those things, and it's nice too, because once you get there, that etiquette plays in your favor because you're not going to have other guys on top of you.
Right.
And that's a huge thing. And so,
well, that's also nice because hunting spots won't get flooded.
Exactly.
It's not like you're going like somewhere down here in the lower 48 and you've got 20 guys sitting in one particular region.
It's in everybody's best interest to conserve and spread out and
for sure.
That. So
I can imagine that also as far as the tag system. Of course, people are able to get moose tags.
Yeah.
But then if the air taxi guys are not going to do it, then you're that's like another step in the regulation of moose, and it helps.
And that's why I would just start. So if you're thinking about planning your hunt, I would start right there with the air taxi guy. And then once you have that secured, start answering the rest of the how you're going to go about this.
So then after you're able to do that, then you're able to then go ahead and start securing tags. How easy or hard is it to get a tag for a non-resident?
It depends on where you're going. So, and the Alaska regulations, they are a nightmare to figure out. It's probably one of the most complicated systems I've ever seen. But you have hunt tags, you have draw tags, you have non-permit tags, and if you're going to be putting in for a draw, what's the draw? I think it's in December, isn't it?
December, yeah.
Yeah, the draw's in December, so you have to put in for your tag then, prior to the year that you're going, obviously. But there's a lot of over-the-counter tag spots too. So
even for non-residents.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have different restrictions and regulations on the moose that you can take in the area. Number of moose you can take. There's a lot to it.
Would you say that the air taxi guys would then direct you as far as which tags you should apply for?
Yeah, they'll let you know in their area because like where we hunt out of, it's no secret we hunt out of the Dillingham area. And so there are units there that are specifically resident only, and your air taxi guy knows all that, and he can tell you, which unit is the unit you can hunt in, and lots of room there to do that. And so, there's a lot of over-the-counter opportunities, and that's where I would start. Like getting into, you don't gain a lot. There's so much amazing hunting in Alaska over-the-counter. You don't gain a lot putting in.
Yeah.
The draw tags, I will say that you might not have to go out as far. So if you have a tighter budget, then maybe that's one thing. But where we are at, we have to go out a little ways. Like the minimum distance is a ways out there.
Yeah. So you would say that if somebody were to apply for their tag first before getting the air taxi guy, then that would make their hunt that much harder.
That would be totally irresponsible. You got to book that air taxi guy before you figure out your tag.
Okay.
Because there is a good chance you will just not get out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right.
It's madness for the air taxi guys. I mean, they're just going all out trying to get guys out there and take care of them.
So then now I can imagine the logistics of flying people in and everything. They can't drop you off at a hunt spot and then like 3 days later pick you up necessarily. So how much time should somebody allot when they're going to go for a moose hunt? Like what are we looking at?
So the seasons are pretty short when you look at non-resident seasons, depending on where you are in Alaska. There's a couple that are a little bit longer, but the season in general is about 10 days, 10 to 11 days.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So where we've hunted, you have 11 days. Here's the deal though. weather considerations, I've literally sat there for 3 days waiting to get out because you get a storm coming in and you just can't fly.
Right.
And so I would plan on having that full season plus a couple of days either side of it, because you might not get in, you might not get out. And so when we talk about 11 days, we always plan on 15. We plan on 15 days being gone from door to door. And
what do you mean by door to door?
So like from our home
back
to our home.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we try and plan on a good chunk of time. And you're going to be investing so much in the hunt from not just the financial side, the planning side, and then it might be your only opportunity to go for a few years. You need to give yourself a healthy time window to make it successful.
So do you think it would be wise for somebody who's a new hunter or someone, maybe this is a once in a lifetime hunt for them, that they should, instead of trying to do it DIY and just talking to an air taxi guy, like maybe they should get a guide?
It depends on your skill level. I mean, Alaska's nothing to mess around with, but it's also not the gauntlet either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
understanding your limitations is probably the biggest thing with it. So
People don't do it.
well, yeah, but if you're getting up there in age and you can't handle packing a moose, then you have to shoot it by the lake, for instance, or you have to go with a guide if you want to shoot something away from a lake. Like that's just the fact.
Yeah.
We always, I mean, just for a budget sake, we usually recommend 2 people to go on a trip. So that as it breaks down, it works out better for you if you have 2 guys on a trip. It evens out the cost a bit, and the planes can handle that much of a load.
And I would say, because your question back to do I do a guide, do I do it DIY? Depends on how bad you want to be successful, or if you just want to experience the country, because moose in general are fairly easy to kill once you find them.
Yeah.
But
It sounds so
honestly,
bad.
the hunt, most guys I talk to, even if they're unsuccessful, like the trip is once in a lifetime trip. And so just dollars and cents wise, DIY hunt, I tell guys to plan for $5,000 to $6,000. We're real frugal when we travel though.
Okay.
You could spend a little bit more, but I mean, the minimum you're going to get into a guided hunt, the amount you're going to pay a guide is going to be around 15 to 18.
Oh, just the guide.
Just the guide. And that doesn't
does
have
that not
that's not your
travel?
tag, your logistics, like everything. So even if you get in at the entry level of 15,000, you're going to have 20 grand into that hunt.
I was going to
minimum.
say, realistically, you're 20 to 25.
Yeah. And so you could think about it this way for a DIY hunt, you could do 3 of those DIY hunts before you even come close to paying for one guided hunt.
Yeah. And generally,
just because you're with a guide
yeah.
doesn't mean you're going to kill something either.
Yeah.
Lots of guys come home.
Oh, you mean guides don't just magically give you animals?
No,
The guides are good. Honestly, most of the time, the hunter's the one that brings the limitations to the table.
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
that
hunt.
hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were a guide for a while in Colorado, right?
Colorado and Idaho.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you found that it could be hit or miss, right?
Yeah, it boils down to how much the client wanted it.
Gotcha.
So if they didn't want it that badly,
Yeah.
a lot of times it didn't happen. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter.
So a little bit, just another thing on the prep for Alaska. Then I know that a lot of guys they like to work out and they like to kind of get themselves trained up. Imagine they're an Eastern hunter like myself, and they don't have giant mountains to be hiking on and stuff, and they're not necessarily, they're used to what they're used to. Mm-hmm. Do you think that physically there needs to be an extensive amount of prep, if not like the same amount of prep as they would do on an elk hunt, or you think it's less physical prep?
It boils down to style of hunting, I'd say.
Okay.
So yeah, I know a lot of guys that shoot them right on the lake shore.
Oh,
They
they
sit
just
there and they
won't-
call.
So when you talk to guys and they weren't successful,
Yeah.
I have talked to very few guys that weren't successful that didn't see moose. The moose were just too far for them to kill.
Okay.
And pack back. And we'll
Gotcha.
talk about that more in later
Okay.
podcasts, like the size of these moose.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to getting ready for this hunt, the better shape you're in, the better off you are.
Yeah.
When it comes
Increases
to
your
anything,
chances.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just miserable. That country can be hard on you, brush.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about some of that stuff as we go.
So, so then all the gear that they need for this particular hunt, this could be something that they're only using once in their life. They ship all their gear in from the lower 48, or is there other resources for people? Do they have to buy everything up in Alaska, or how does that work?
No, and so when it comes to the logistics of getting there, you need to be there's so many options. You can rent a bunch of gear, like
really?
your personal gear. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
get, but like tents and things like that. A lot of these air taxi guys, they'll rent you gear. They'll outfit you out totally.
So what can you rent?
You can rent tents, boats, stoves,
jet
sleeping
boil
bags.
fuel.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
there's-
Covered. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're buying the jet boil fuel, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're not renting
Bring it back and
Just rent
had a
the
hole in
jet
it.
boil. Yeah,
Yeah, and so there's all these awesome
Yeah.
opportunities there, and that's a big deal. So depending on where you're hunting, so I know a lot of guys that hunt out of Fairbanks and hunt up in the Brooks Range or hunt out of Tok. You can hunt out also. You can hunt over in the Wrangles. You can hunt out where we do in Western Alaska. When you have to, so if you're flying in with all your gear and you're going into a place like Fairbanks, that's a hub, right? That's easy to get all your stuff from, say, Wisconsin up to there.
Yep.
But if you're going to then take a hopper flight out to one of the villages, like we're out in Dillingham, right? Like there have been times that we don't get any of our gear. And so
your check
only
bags
that
don't show up.
only your gun shows up and then like one key bag.
okay, yeah,
And you can be so that is a consideration when it
Yeah.
comes to hunting out, like in those far reaches where it gets more difficult for luggage and stuff to get to.
Okay, so we've secured the air taxi. We've gotten all that squared away. We've talked to them about, trying to get things sorted there. So now they can get a tag.
Yeah.
So now you can get a tag after you've got your air taxi squared away. You've talked about renting gear and that. Okay, so what you're flying in with and what you're traveling with. Now we can get a tag.
Yep.
So, all right. So how do you know what tag to apply for?
Yeah, and so that again, your air taxi guy is going to tell you like if this is an over the counter unit or if you're going to need to apply for it. But so let's just go over the counter, because that's what I would just generally recommend. It's the easiest, hassle-free way to do it. Okay, so
Does Alaska have a point system for?
No,
I don't think they do.
okay.
Alaska doesn't have any point systems.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if I'm going to get a tag, I would definitely get it online. I would get it ahead of time, especially if you're going to be hunting out of one of the villages, because I have literally seen guys, including us, show up and you can't buy tags there. Sometimes they'll be sold out of tags. And so you have to have a locking band for hunting these big game animals.
What do you mean by a locking band?
So it's a metal band. Maybe we could throw a picture on of one of them on my moose. It's just a metal band that clips onto the moose and around the antler. So you got to have one of those. And a lot of times out in the villages, they don't have those. And so I would recommend ordering ahead of time. They say give at least 2 weeks to get that.
Okay.
The other thing that you have to do.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So you get your tag 2 weeks before, or you get your tag how long before should you get the tag?
I'd recommend
As soon as you get your
Yeah.
air taxi, I mean, and it's after the first of the year, I would buy a tag.
But how much time would you say? So like, let's say the hunt is in this time, and then get your tag by this time.
Do it 6 weeks ahead of time. Do it as soon as you can. There's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point in risking it and
So
ruining
can you
your
buy your tag? Can
hunt.
you buy your tag in January? in the
Yeah.
hunt? Okay,
Yeah,
I got
you
you.
can
So
And
okay.
they send it to you.
So it's not like a closed. There's not like a closed period for the
No.
tags. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And so you can buy it all through the course of the year that you're going to be hunting in.
Okay.
And so I would get that tag, and then there's a couple of things that you might not know. Okay, so one thing that we ran into that was a real bummer is we wanted to go hunting with our friend Simon.
Okay.
He's from New Zealand, and so we were planning on going up there last year.
You
With
told me
him.
about that. Yeah.
Like, so he bought his tags, everything,
flights.
flights, everything, and all of a sudden we were on there looking at the regs, and non-resident aliens have to have a guide.
So wait, he was able to buy a tag.
Yeah. And so I'd
but
watch
yeah,
that. So the system will allow you to buy it even if you're, so like with like a brown bear, grizzly bear locking tag, you can buy one, but that doesn't mean you can shoot one without a guide. Okay. So there's some things that you got to watch out for there. And so if you're not from the United States and you're thinking, I want to go hunt moose in Alaska as a non-resident alien has to have a guide. It's a really rough rule. It kind of bit us in the butt.
Well,
and so
what surprises me is that you can get all the way up to the point of getting a tag, and you've secured everything, and then you get your tag, and you're up a creek. You're like, what do I do now? No, I gotta hire a guide.
Alaska definitely lets it fall back on you.
Wow.
So everything's your responsibility up there.
Yeah.
So
That was devastating. So there's a lot of things. So one of the things that you have to do as a non-resident is you have to take a moose hunter orientation course.
Okay.
And it's super simple and it's actually super helpful. And there's two aspects that it covers. One is judging a moose.
Yeah.
And how big it is, because most units for non-residents have a 4 brow tine or 50-inch minimum.
Okay.
And so if you shoot one that's under 50 inches and you misjudge it, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the hunting side of things.
I was going to say, how would you know what 50 inches are?
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Are you like measuring it for the, before?
That's part of the orientation. You're looking at the size of the head, the ears, and then judging off of
so they have,
there.
do they have examples there?
Yeah. And so it's actually, the hunter education, the orientation is awesome.
It's not hunter education, it's orientation.
It's orientation.
Because hunter education is a kind of a different situation.
But it is required in some units.
And so that, you have to have
in some units. Not
in some units. But you have to have that, and they do like a field care of the moose, like prepping. So you got to realize these moose are, we're pulling 800 to 1,000 pounds of meat off of a moose. Yeah. And so that's a lot of work to do. And so just kind of proper, it's a whole nother level than working up a white-tailed deer, right?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to have for dinner tonight.
Yeah. And so you have to know, so you have to take those two things, and then you have to keep that with you, the verification that you passed that hunter orientation.
Is it like a laminated card or something?
No, everything's paper. You got to take care of it.
Print it off.
Okay. Yeah. So it's, there's a lot of steps.
So again, that's on you again. There. Oh, what happened to your card? And it's in the river somewhere.
No, then that's totally on you. And they are, let me tell you, they are merciless.
Oh yeah.
They are merciless. It is not the spirit of the law up there. It is the letter of the law.
Oh,
and if you, even if it's totally unintentional.
It's a good Bible reference right there.
It is. Yeah. It is a very good Bible reference. There's no leeway. So they will take your moose. They will fine you. You will be.
Yeah, you have to.
So how often? I'm sorry.
If you walk away from the tent and you have your pistol on you and you don't have your license and they show up, you get a fine.
But what if you have a concealed permit or something?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Literally know a guy a couple of years ago.
Gotcha.
His tent was up on the hill. He walked down to go get water, had his pistol on him.
Yeah.
Ranger showed up in the plane at the same time he was down there.
In the plane?
Yep.
Okay.
Gave him a ticket.
Yeah.
Because he did not have his license.
Because he didn't have his license and he had a gun.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a deal.
That's fun.
That's the real deal.
How often do the Rangers show up? Like
okay, so you think you're in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
You are. I've never been under such scrutiny in my life from
really
like they're just all over you all the time. If it's a flying day, there will be Rangers. Yeah, because state patrols who does a lot of it, and so they'll be out.
What do you mean if it's a flying day? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So, no, not just clear. Yeah, if a plane can fly and it's safe to fly, they will be out and looking. And like so, a couple of years ago, Adam and Shane kill a moose on opening morning. Yeah. The state patrol guy flies over, sees the moose and them out there like over a half mile from the lake. Yeah. Lands the plane, comes waddling out through the willows and checks them right there in the middle of nowhere.
I love my job.
Yeah, they're like 80 miles from the nearest town, right? And so you'd think nobody's ever going to know. That's and so it's important. It's important to have everything in order.
So by
make sure that you
flying
have
day, you mean pretty much just any day that it's decent outside.
Yeah, decent. Yeah, decent. So, and so it's but it's important. It's important, I mean, we got to play by the rules. Is how conservation works and hunting works, and we play by the rules. But I'm just saying, you don't want to. There's nothing that will sour a trip faster than something like that happening and not being prepared. So just keep everything on you all the time.
Yeah, and in a Ziploc bag or two. And then in a dry bag.
So they don't have laminators. They don't have like run into a UPS store.
Those pieces of paper, they'll dissolve.
So that's the tag situation and the orientation, and you just make sure to have those and get them ahead of time. And
are there different kinds of tags that you buy? Is there some sort of or is it just it says OTC and then that's it? Or
basically,
yeah.
So and so you have a locking tag, and then you have a hunter harvest report.
Okay,
so you have harvest ticket. And so that's just like that's your normal paper tag. That you notch out
and sign it. Bring it. For anybody watching this, bring a pen.
Yeah, that's going to come in more as we talk about this.
What do you mean, bring a pen?
You have to sign it after you kill it.
Yeah, you need to, and some other states have that.
What do you mean? Sign? You mean your signature?
Yeah, you have to validate
you validate your tag, ticket. But you also have your other paperwork signed. Make sure you sign all your paperwork where it says sign it. Yeah. Just go through it, check it, and make sure it's taken care of because you can get fined if you don't sign it too.
So there's clearly a lot more into this than just I'm going to go kill this animal. You've got all these different steps. So you start off
That's the little things. That
right. So it's and it's the things that people don't notice online, and they're watching a YouTube video, or they hear a news story or something. They don't realize that actually getting into hunting, there's so many steps to walk through, and there's so many different different hoops to jump through, if you will, that you're not just killing an animal for the sake of killing an animal. I can do it just like that. But instead, you're following guidelines, you're following regulations, and you're going through actual conservation steps. Because at each one of these points, so first you have the air taxi situation. After the air taxi situation, you have trying to secure where a tag is, right? So we have 1, air taxi; 2, the tag, and the air taxi is going to help you to direct that tag.
Yeah.
Then you have education. You have it's not just the hunter education, because that's one thing. A lot of people have hunter education, but it's that orientation.
Yeah.
Right.
We do recommend that for everybody. It's just going to help you analyze and figure out how big a moose is.
Yeah, and we'll
But
talk
it's
about
also legally required.
Yeah.
So it's something you have to do anyway.
Yeah, and so in that hunter orientation, and we're going to talk about this more in the field judging of a moose, but I have seen video from guys that came home empty-handed, and they were like, I just didn't know if the moose was big enough. And they show me video, and they're looking at a 65-inch moose. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm just like,
they were freaked out.
Literally just let go an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And
they were a scurd.
Yeah, and so it's so important to put in the work and become proficient and good at it.
Yeah. So how this is kind of when the for the antler growth for something that's a 50-inch moose, how old is that animal?
I really don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think they live about 13 years. I think moose live roughly 13 years.
Yeah. So I'd imagine the bulls that we're killing, we've never really aged one, but just in general, mature animals have to, over 5 to 7 years old before they start becoming mature. And
right.
So yeah, one of the other things though about tags is there's a lot of opportunity to hunt other stuff in Alaska. And depending on where you are, you got to look at that. But here's the coolest thing I think about Alaska. I wish everywhere did it, is you can downgrade tags. So,
what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So like a caribou tag, I think off the top of my head is $600. Mm-hmm. And then a bear tag's about $450.
Black bear.
A black bear tag's $450.
Okay.
And a wolverine is like $175.
You can hunt grizzlies in Alaska,
but with a guide only.
With a guide only.
Yeah, if you're non-resident.
If you're non-resident, but hunting grizzlies is legal in Alaska with a guide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if non-residents could hunt them, I'd have a stack of them.
I'm just making that point very, very clear because there are a lot of people that they go, you can't hunt them at all.
So let me get this downgrading thing done, right? So caribou $600, black bear's $450, wolverine might be $300. It's something like that. Yeah, I think. So if I buy a caribou tag and I'm out there hunting and I see a black bear, I can shoot that black bear and put my caribou tag on it. If I'm out there hunting and I have a caribou tag and I see a wolverine and I don't have a wolverine tag, I can put my caribou tag on that wolverine. So anything that costs less than your tag, that costs less, and that's open in season.
Can you do the same thing with a moose tag?
Yeah. And so you could do the same thing with a moose tag. So if you're out there and you're not seeing any moose, but there's black bears all over and you're like, you know what? I want to come home with something. I want to come home with something to put on the wall. Yeah. And there's big black bears all over. Then on the last day of season, hammer a big black bear with it.
As long as it's open season on that animal. They have to be consecutive seasons.
And one of the things that you need to do
out of season, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I would do for prep work on that though is if you think there's an opportunity to harvest a different animal, you need to have the harvest ticket for that animal.
What do you mean by that? What's a harvest ticket?
Yeah, okay, so that's like your actual paper tag.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so what I would do if I was super flexible and I didn't know, am I going to kill a bear? Am I going to kill a moose? Am I going to kill a caribou? Whatever.
Yeah.
I get that highest tag. And then, so if you're more of an opportunist hunter, and then you can print off all the different harvest tickets to keep with you.
Yeah. Okay. So you cannot, you can downgrade a tag, but you still need the harvest ticket.
You have to have the harvest ticket too. So there's a lot of little things, but so it's an opportunity. And I'm just trying to present that to you. So it's an opportunity to capitalize more, to maybe open your options in a situation. But you can't use that locking tag on multiple animals. Once you use it, it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would figure that if you put all this planning and all this preparation, like everything into this hunt and all the money that you've spent, and then you've taken out 15 days, like you said, and then you're on day 14, day 13, and you're like, I don't know what to get. Or that guy that he didn't kill the moose.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, here you can kill something.
Yeah.
And that way you can still take something home. You can still take home some meat from something, or you can take home a trophy from something. You can have that memory, from your experience. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it opens up opportunity for you. How I always do it personally is I have a locking moose tag, and I have a black bear tag. In case I see a black bear that I want to take, or a wolverine or something. In the unit that we're in, you don't have to have wolf tags. You just have to get them sealed. But many of the units, you have to actually have a wolf tag, and I think they're $60 for a tag.
Have you guys ever eaten wolf?
No.
Okay. I figured I'd ask.
No.
Oh, man. Come on.
Haven't gotten that hungry yet.
Once you smell them, you don't eat them.
Oh, no, they're that bad.
Idaho ones are way worse.
Oh, yeah.
Idaho wolves are horrible.
Well, is there anything else that you want to cover in this?
No, I don't think so on the tags. I think that's pretty.
Well, basically we're in our step one. So then the next thing that we would be looking at would be gear and related.
Yeah, I think those are really the primary steps, the fundamental foundation of getting going and setting up the plan for your moose hunt. If you can get all that in order, and I think that gives you some vision on what is possible, what can be done, and where you need to start with it.
If I want to do a moose hunt, when should I start planning, and when should I expect? So right now it's 2023. What year should I expect to be able to do my moose hunt if I started today?
That's a great question.
It's February 2023. It's February 2023. If I started today, when would I be able to?
So I talked to a guy a couple weeks ago, Ryan Lampers, the guys that do Gritty, and they wanted to do a hunt, and I gave him some information on an air taxi guy. And I think he told me that the guy had 2 spaces left, and he booked one of them and somebody else booked the other.
Okay.
So that was for 2023. I don't know. I would start immediately and talk to the air tag guys. Get your name on the list, because sometimes people back out. If you're flexible, a lot of guys have life events happen and stuff. I remember when COVID happened, like all of a sudden nobody was flying hardly.
Right.
And so, and so there's opportunity there. So I would start planning now. I'd get a hold of that air taxi guy. I would realistically think 2024. Right now.
Okay. So not like 2025, 2026. Like
some air taxis are farther out. So
there are some that are that. But if you call around, and there's opportunity out there. And there's more guys getting into the air taxi game. So there's going to be opportunity there.
Okay. Yep. All right. Very good.
So,
well, thank you, Justin. That's good Q&A session there.
Yeah. Just want to thank you guys for joining us for this one. And we're going to have 3 more parts on this Alaska series. So if you're planning a hunt or interested in how to plan a hunt, we hope that this will be an awesome resource for you. And we hope that you'll join us next time. God bless you all, and have an awesome day.